I deleted the photo just as my husband shifted in his sleep beside me, his hand brushing my thigh, warm and innocent. The image still burned behind my eyes, my mouth open, my body arched, his fingers pressed so hard into my skin, they left bruises shaped like secrets. I could still feel them throbbing beneath my silk nightgown. I lay there, breathing shallow, tasting the salt of sweat and guilt. I had scrubbed myself raw in the shower, but nothing could rinse him off. Not the scent, not the memory of his voice. In my ear, low, cruel, begging me to say I was his. And the worst part? I did. I said it. Now my husband is murmuring something about breakfast plans, his voice so sweet it makes me nauseous. I smile, I nod, and I want to scream. The therapist's office is too white, too clean, like it's been sterilized to keep the truth from contaminating the air. I sit with my legs crossed, fingers clenched tight in my lap, and I tell her I'm fine. That I just have trouble sleeping sometimes. What I don't tell her is that I only sleep when I know he won't call. What I don't say is that every time my husband kisses my forehead and says he loves me, I feel a wave of nausea so violent, I have to smile through it to survive. I used to be normal, I say instead, and it sounds like a lie even to me. Flashback, 2 years ago. We were at a dinner party, me, laughing too loudly, in a red dress that hugged my hips just enough to feel dangerous. My husband's arm rested possessively on the small of my back. He told his co-workers about our honeymoon in Italy, how I cried at the Vatican because I felt something holy in the silence. I remember feeling proud that he remembered the details. Back then, love felt like a timeline, linear, safe. Now, it's fractured glass, sharp edges and distorted reflections. Present day. I rehearse lies in the mirror. I'm just tired. Work's been hectic. I think I'm getting sick. Each excuse a layer of skin I peel off before stepping back into my marriage. Sometimes I dream about my wedding day, but in the dream, I'm walking down the aisle toward him, not my husband. The church is on fire. I smile anyway. Flashback. 8 months ago. We were trying to get pregnant. I peed on ovulation sticks, tracked temperature, swallowed vitamins like holy sacraments. My husband would whisper into my neck, "I can't wait to meet the little us." But something had already shifted inside me, a restlessness, like a hunger I couldn't name. I started staying late at work for no reason, taking longer showers, imagining someone else's hands, someone else's voice. It wasn't even sexual at first. It was attention, danger, a flicker of something raw. I don't know exactly when I stopped being the woman he married, but I do know this. The fall didn't happen all at once. It was a series of micro-fractures. A look held too long. A text I never should have replied to. A kiss I almost gave, but didn't. Until I did. And now, sitting across from a stranger I'm supposed to call a therapist, I realize the scariest part. I don't regret it. Not even a little. It started with a mistake. Not a kiss. Not a text. Just a conversation that should have ended differently. I was covering a team meeting for my boss who had called in sick. I remember walking into the room balancing my laptop, iced coffee, and the crumbling patience of a woman pretending to be fulfilled. I didn't even notice him at first. Just another suit, another analyst from one of the younger departments. But he noticed me. His name was Julian. Too young for me, too confident. The kind of man who spoke with quiet arrogance like he'd been told his whole life that he was destined for something big. And he believed it. "I liked your breakdown on the quarterlies," he said after the meeting, waiting by the door like he'd planned the moment. "It was clean. Ruthless, even." "Ruthless?" I raised an eyebrow. "That's flattering, I think." He smiled, slow and deliberate. It is. Most people over-explain. You cut through the bullshit. I should have walked away. Smiled politely, returned to my emails and my silent commute home. But instead, I stood there and let his words settle in me like warm liquor. It wasn't attraction. Not yet. It was attention. Focus. The way he looked. At me like he was seeing something others missed. We started talking more. Brief chats between meetings. Casual nods in the hallway. Then came the coffee runs. The Slack messages. The inside jokes. He started calling me Ice Queen. Not in a mean way. More like a challenge. There's fire under there, he'd said one day, eyes locked with mine. You don't hide it very well. That night, I dreamed about him. Not sex. Just his mouth near my ear, whispering things I couldn't remember by morning. I woke up wet and confused and furious. He wasn't just some hot distraction. He was in me, like a thought I couldn't shake, a splinter under the skin. I started, dressing differently. Darker lipstick, tighter skirts. I told myself it was for me. It wasn't. Julian had this way of making silence feel charged, of letting the space between words stretch just long enough to become dangerous. I'd catch him staring when he thought I wasn't looking. Or maybe he wanted me to catch him. One afternoon, he sent me a photo. Nothing explicit, just his hand resting on a book, wrist exposed, veins visible, a silver ring catching the light. The message below read, "You ever wonder how much we give away without saying a word?" I stared at that photo for a full 10 minutes, heart racing like I'd been caught doing something I shouldn't. This was how it began. Not with a touch, not with sex, but with obsession. The dangerous kind, the slow burn kind. Julian wasn't just a man. He was a mirror, showing me parts of myself I'd buried deep. Hunger, cruelty, chaos. He didn't flirt. He provoked. He pulled confessions out of me with a look. My husband would text me, "What should we do for dinner?" Julian would message, "Do you ever feel like you're sleepwalking through your life?" Guess which one made my pulse skip? One night, after a late meeting, we were alone in the break room. The air felt thick. He said nothing, just leaned against the counter and watched me pour my tea with shaking hands. When I turned to leave, he stepped in close, too close. His voice was barely a whisper. "You feel it too. Don't lie." I didn't answer, but I didn't move away. That was the moment. The moment everything changed. It was never about sex. Not really. It was about being seen. Being wanted so intensely it felt like violence. And I let it happen. The first time I imagined him touching me, I was in the backseat of an Uber with my husband, headed home from his cousin's engagement party. I was staring out the window, nodding to whatever story he was telling, but my mind had split from my body. In my head, I was in the office copy room, pressed up against the cold machine. Julian's hand gripping the back of my neck, whispering something filthy into my ear, while the printer spat out meaningless pages. I remember blinking hard, trying to pull myself out of it, like surfacing too fast from a dream. But it stuck. The image wouldn't let go. It replayed again when I was brushing my teeth, when I was grocery shopping, when I was making love to my husband and had to bite my lip to keep from moaning the wrong name. That was the beginning of the spiral. It didn't feel like falling. It felt like floating. Like every rule I'd ever followed was loosening around me, and I didn't care. I wanted to be caught. I wanted to be ruined. Julian stopped flirting. He didn't have to anymore. He just stared. Too long. Too knowing. He'd stand behind me when we reviewed project updates, so close I could feel the heat of him without a single touch. Once I dropped a pen, and when I bent to pick it up, he leaned down with me and whispered, I wonder what else you'd drop if I asked nicely. I laughed, like it was a joke, like I wasn't shaking. I started journaling again, not the way I used to, with hope or gratitude. These were confessions. Madness on paper. Diary entry, April 3rd. I watched him eat an apple today. It took everything in me not to bite my own tongue just to feel something sharp. I think about his hands more than I think about God. I think about what his mouth tastes like when I'm brushing my teeth. I think I'm losing my mind, and I like it. I imagined conversations with him. In the shower, in traffic. Sometimes even, while my husband was talking to me. Imagined Julian. I could break you open, you know that? You're not even pretending to be loyal anymore. Do you even love him, or do you just love the safety of being loved? He wasn't just in my thoughts, he was infecting them. The line between real and fantasy blurred until I couldn't tell if he actually touched my hip in the elevator that day, or if I just wanted him to so badly I made it up. One night, I heard a notification on my phone at 2:17 a.m. Julian, what would you do if I showed up right now? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. My husband lay beside me, deep in sleep. I watched his chest rise and fall, and hated him for being so peaceful. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete the message either. I began to dissociate in social settings. At dinner parties, I'd zone out during conversations and picture Julian under the table, his hands between my legs while I made small talk about interest rates. I'd sit across from my in-laws and fantasize about slipping away into a bathroom stall, calling him, just to hear him breathe. I was slipping. My reflection looked different. My eyes too wide. My lips always slightly parted. A woman waiting to be devoured. I started wearing red lipstick to work. Not for anyone else, just so I could catch him looking at my mouth. He noticed. Of course he noticed. I like when you wear that color, he said once in the hallway. Makes it hard to think about anything else. I stopped sleeping. Or if I did, I dreamed of him. Vivid, violent dreams. Once I woke up soaked in sweat, convinced I could smell him on my skin. I stripped the sheets and showered, but it lingered. Not the scent, but the need. I started creating reasons to see him. Fake project questions, sudden emergencies. I stalked his Instagram like a teenager, zooming in on photos, dissecting captions for clues, cataloging likes. I noticed the girl who commented often. I hated her. I imagined how she tasted. I wanted to be her. I wanted to watch myself through his eyes. Diary entry, April 19th. He held the door open for me today, and I swear I almost moaned. I am not okay. This is not okay. I think I would let him destroy my life just to hear what I sound like when I break. I stopped saying I love you to my husband. I couldn't. The words felt rotten in my mouth. I kissed him less, flinched when he touched me. I think he noticed, but he didn't say anything. Maybe he thought I was tired. Maybe he believed I still loved him. But my mind was elsewhere. Already unzipping my dress in Julian's apartment. Already arching my back. Already whispering please into the mouth of a man I had never kissed but already belonged to. And still, nothing had happened between us. Nothing tangible. No kiss. No sex. No confessions. But it didn't matter. Because in my mind, I had already betrayed everything. And I couldn't stop. It happened on a Thursday. Not a romantic night, not a candlelit dinner. Just two people drunk on tension and tired of pretending. Julian had stayed late to finish a report. I stayed too, lying to myself about catching up on emails. It was raining. Hard. The kind of storm that makes silence feel louder. We were the only ones left in the office, the city outside drowning in thunder and shadow. I asked if he wanted a drink. He didn't answer. He just walked toward me, slow and certain, until my back hit the filing cabinet and his mouth was inches from mine. He didn't ask, didn't hesitate. Just looked at me with that feral hunger I had dreamed about for weeks. "You're shaking," he said, brushing his knuckles down my jaw. "I know," I whispered. "Do it anyway." The first kiss wasn't gentle. It was punishment. Months of denial unraveling all at once. His hands were on my hips, then under my shirt, then around my throat. I let him touch me in ways I hadn't let anyone, not even my husband. It wasn't romantic. It was raw. My body responded instantly, eager, traitorous. I moaned into his mouth, grinding against him like someone possessed. Like something inside me had finally cracked and was clawing its way out. When he slid my panties down and dropped to his knees, I thought of my wedding day. The lace, the vows, the man waiting at the altar. And I almost cried. But then Julian's tongue found me, and my guilt drowned in pleasure. It didn't stop there. We didn't even make it out of the office that night. He bent me over a desk I'd written dozens of emails from, whispering things that made my skin burn. I came hard, twice, biting my hand to keep from screaming. I'd never felt so alive. So ashamed. Afterward, we sat on the floor, breathless. My blouse was open, bra strap twisted, lipstick smeared like war paint. He looked at me, not with affection, but with triumph. "You've been mine for weeks," he said. Tonight just made it real. I wanted to slap him. I wanted to fuck him again. Instead, I buttoned my blouse and walked out into the rain, soaking wet and shaking. Told my husband I got caught in traffic. He made me tea. He rubbed my feet. He kissed the top of my head and told me he missed me all day. I went to the bathroom and cried so hard I vomited. Then I texted Julian, "When can I see you again?" The second time was in a hotel. Neutral ground, white sheets, no names. He ordered red wine. I drank too much. I needed the numbness to quiet the screaming in my head. He undressed me slowly this time. Less predator, more worshiper. My body betrayed me again, arching into his touch, trembling with anticipation. But my mind split in half. One part was in the moment, gasping, begging, coming undone under his mouth. The other part, watching from the corner of the room, detached and horrified, hearing my husband's voice in my head. "You're the only woman I've ever wanted. You're my home. I trust you." I almost said his name once, not Julian's, my husband's. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. After sex, I lay there, tangled in sheets that smelled of sex and wine, staring at the ceiling, like it could tell me who the hell I'd become. Julian fell asleep beside me, fingers still wrapped in my hair like a claim. I should have felt something. Regret, panic, shame. Instead, I felt empty. Like I'd hollowed myself out and let him crawl inside. Like I'd done something irreversible. And the only way out now was through. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about lust anymore. It was about annihilation, and I wanted more. It fell apart faster than I ever imagined. 1 minute I was floating, careful, clever, calculating, and the next, everything was unraveling like a thread I'd pulled too hard, too long. And the worst part? I didn't try to stop it. I think, on some level, I wanted it to happen. It started with a voicemail. My husband and I were driving back from a weekend with his parents. He was humming along to some old playlist. I was scrolling through my phone, bored, aching from the lack of Julian's voice, his hands, the reckless chaos I'd become addicted to. That's when it happened. My husband's eyes flicked to my phone screen at a red light, casual. Curious. "You have a voicemail," he said. "From someone named Jules?" My blood turned to ice. I grabbed the phone too quickly, laughed too loudly. "Just someone from work," I said, praying my voice didn't betray the scream stuck in my throat. He nodded, believed me, or wanted to. But later that night, while I was in the shower, he listened to it. I knew because when I came out, the air had shifted. The apartment was too quiet. The kind of quiet that isn't peace. It's war waiting to be named. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in his hand, eyes wide and broken. "I thought maybe it was a mistake," he said. "That I misheard. But he said your name. Said he missed the way you shook. Who the fuck is he?" I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but the words wouldn't come. Because what could I say that wasn't a lie or a ruin? He stood up, voice shaking. "Is this real? Tell me it's not real." I wanted to scream, "It's not you, it's me." But wasn't that the cruelest truth of all? Instead, I said the first honest thing in months. "I think I lost myself." He didn't cry. Not at first. He just sat down and stared at the wall. Like if he stared long enough, this moment might disappear. I left. Not because he told me to. Because I couldn't stand the way he looked at me, like I was a stranger wearing his wife's skin. I went straight to Julian's apartment. I was soaked from the rain, hair clinging to my face, mascara smeared from tears I didn't remember crying. He opened the door, shirtless, smug, half-drunk. "I told you it would happen," he said, pulling me inside. "You were never meant to be anyone's wife." And suddenly, I hated him. I hated the way he spoke about me like I was his creation, his conquest. I hated that he'd left that voicemail. On purpose, I was sure of it now. He wanted to blow it all up. "You think this is love?" I asked him, voice trembling. He smiled, teeth flashing like a wolf. "No, this is truth." I slapped him. He laughed. And I knew in that moment he wasn't obsessed with me. He was obsessed with the destruction, the game, the power, and I had handed it all to him. I walked out. No words, no drama. Just silence and a door clicking shut behind me. I didn't go home. I wandered the streets until sunrise, replaying every moment like a film I no longer recognized. The gasps, the moans, the lies. My husband's eyes when he realized he didn't know the woman he married. I felt gutted, hollowed out. This wasn't just an affair. It was a self-extinction. And now I was standing in the aftermath of a life I'd set on fire, wondering if I'd even bothered to save the parts worth salvaging. It's been 8 months. People think time is the antidote, that if you give a wound enough distance, it will stop bleeding. But what no one tells you is that some wounds don't bleed. They rot, quietly, from the inside out. I moved back in with my husband. Yes, he let me. After the therapy sessions, the screaming matches, the weeks of silence that felt like years, he said he wanted to try, that he still loved me, that he didn't want to throw everything away. And I nodded, smiled, promised. But I think part of him knows I never came back whole. There are mornings when he brings me coffee in bed and kisses my forehead, and I flinch. Not because I don't love him, but because his kindness feels like a mirror, and I can't stand what it reflects. Sometimes I dream about Julian, not in lust, not even in guilt. Just fragments. A voice in the dark, a shadow in the hallway. The scent of sweat and leather and sin. Last week I thought I saw him. Across the street. At a cafe we used to meet in. My heart stopped. I nearly walked into traffic chasing the ghost. But when I got there, it wasn't him. Just a man with the same jawline, same careless smile. I stood there for a full minute, watching a stranger sip espresso, wondering what I would have done if it had been him. Gone to him? Screamed? Begged? I don't know. That's the worst part. Not the betrayal, not the pain. It's the not knowing who I am anymore. I keep a journal now. I don't write confessions, just sentences, disjointed thoughts, the kind of things you whisper when no one's listening. April 26th. I miss the version of me that existed before I knew what I was capable of. Tonight, my husband kissed me goodnight, and I whispered, "I love you," into his chest. And for a second, I almost believed. It almost.